It's daybreak on Arise News, time for the press preview. A first look at what's on the front pages as they arrive. Let's begin with this day. It's leading with that inauguration in Osun State. Adeleke assumes office, abolishes state of Osun, reverses Oyetola's appointments. Tinubu is a comedian. That's according to the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party. That's Atiku Abubakar. And the Nigerian Union of Journalists honor Oshoba, Obabena, Amukapemu, Dokbesi, and others.
And taking a look at the Punch newspaper, the screaming headline here reads, NNPC petrol price without subsidy is 400 naira per litre. Well, that's what marketers are saying. Get more details on page 2 of the Punch. Well, the writers here say oil firms struggling with subsidies. Government cannot be Father Christmas. That's what Ipman is saying. Well, NNPC, NMDPRA keep mum. Over 30,000 filling stations face shortage.
Moving on now to the Nation newspaper. 2023, another attack on INEC office raises concern over polls. Adeleke says he will strengthen security and boost workers' welfare in Osun State. Tinubu, most experienced candidates, that's according to Governor Ayade.
Well, let's take a look at leadership this morning. The headline here says 2023 polls concerns as INEC tracks hundreds of PVCs to individuals. The writer here says 2 persons found with 468 voter cards in Sokoto and Kano. Another says we're persecuting them. Says electoral body promises seamless collection of PVCs. Others here, Peter Obi supports oil exploration in the northeast. That's part of the story making the rounds on the leadership newspaper. Another says Abuja Kaduna train service won't resume today. I'm sure you actually heard that earlier on the bulletin here on Daybreak.
The international papers, this is the Financial Times. China rocked by protest as anger spreads over zero COVID lockdowns.
And taking a look at the Independent newspaper here, same headline reads, China rocked by anti-lockdown protests. Another says Blair tells Sunak to seek new Brexit deal with EU. Former Prime Minister's think tank calls for closer economic ties with the bloc.
The Daily Telegraph, Chinese protesters call for Xi to resign. And in the UK, more than 2,000 NHS bosses earning 6-figure salaries. Well, this comes as the union is getting set to begin a strike before Christmas.
And an newspaper here, it says Sunak losing control as Tory rebellions grow. That's the story making the rounds on paper this morning. For the press preview, let's bring in Emmanuel Bello to analyze some of the stories making the rounds in the papers this morning. Thank you so much, Emmanuel, for joining us on the show. What do you make of the headlines this morning? Where do we start?
Well, this day,
I think, we're starting with the newspaper records. We're always starting there, and our sister publication. All the big stories are there, but the biggest one is the Adeleke, victory speech. The dancing senator, like we call him, who is now going to was going to be governor, and he's not starting on a dancing note. He's starting straight up work, with serious work, and he's hit the ground running, doing a lot of reversals already, he has promised to do. One of the very groundbreaking things he did was to change or to revert to calling the state Osun State instead of the state of Osun that Rauf Arebola started years ago when he changed, revolutionarily just changed the state and say it's called the state of Osun with his own coat of arms and all that. Back then, you remember, a lot of controversy around it, but he's reversed that. But that's not the only thing he did. He said he's going to do a whole lot of things, and he took on. It's not always that during those kind of inaugural speeches that predecessors or successors take on their predecessor in that way. But I think it shows the bitterness of this transition. That Adeleke spoke so terribly, was very hard on the Oyetola administration, and actually said they did everything in their power to stop him from becoming governor. So it just tell you how where we are in our democracy, that transitions are not always that smooth. Oyetola, of course, wasn't present at the event, and you can see that already the stage for something that is going to be a bitter rivalry between the past and the present is already set. I just pray that we can have smoother and simpler transitions or inaugural speeches or inaugural occasions like that, where you can have a change of pattern in a very civilized, happy manner, instead of the bitterness with which this has taken off. But Adeleke wants to be his own man, and he's saying that, look, everything that, especially the last minute appointment that Oyetola did, says he's going to reverse them. In fact, he reversed them immediately and said, look, it's not business as usual, he's his own man, and that he's going to be different. Probably we're going to, I don't know whether we're going to see less of dancing from this governor now, because, it's serious business.
Emmanuel, I'm concerned about the name of the state. A name is important. Should individuals, governors who represent the state, be able to change the name of states at will? Shouldn't this be going through the state assembly?
Well, yeah, that's what I think, to the point of Adeleke is changing the name and saying let's revert to what, because all these states are in the constitution. The name of every state is written in the constitution, so there are constitutional names, and you can't just wake up one day, and change the name of your state. So it's one of the things he did now, saying that, look, let's revert to what we used to be called, we're Osun State. Just like every other state, we're not the state of Osun. So, but like I say, inside there is the bitterness and the rancorous relationship that exists between the past and the present, and that maybe in the future we'll be praying that we have smoother, better transition where, like we used to have in the past, where you have the president actually handing over to his successor, and in most democracies around the world you see that happening. But this, of course, wasn't that smooth, and there was a lot of bitterness involved.
Let's take a look at the Punch here, talking about NNPC. Petrol price without subsidy, 400 naira per litre. Well, that's what marketers are saying. We have seen petrol increase from 165 to about 185 now, and people say that's the minimum. In other states, it's about from 190 to about 250. Do you think it's about time we just, let it all out? Are we going to go on 400, or are we going to seek a reversal? The regulators have been silent about this matter.
Yes, and that's part of the problem. We're expecting that the NNPC should say something, but even the reports, they keep saying that, look, attempt to get Garbadin of NNPC to talk. Or
no, but apparently it's actually the NMDPRA that's actually supposed to talk about it, and not the NNPC. They are the regulators, and they have been silent from when the thing hit 175 naira per litre.
Well, yeah, and it's the regime of silence is on even from the very top. The NNPC ought to also be talking about this, talking to the Nigerians and telling us. Last week, you remember, we are almost confused at, okay, what's causing this? Nobody seems to know the problem. Marketers seem to have a different idea of what is going on. Some of the regulators tell you a different thing. The IPMAN will tell you another thing. And now this story is saying that, look, if you take out subsidy, which is the big problem there, if you take out the subsidy, this is the amount you'll be selling it. So yes, there's so much silence, whether it is on the part of the regulators or even on the part of government. You don't seem to hear. There's no clarity on what's going on, and that is part of the problem. People ought to know what is happening. Why are we having these shortages? Why are we having this crisis? It's been attributed to all sorts of things. 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, we were attributing it to even the floodings, that happened in some place. But now it's like it's about landing costs.
Yes.
But a lot of people are saying that it's shortages too. There's accusation that NNPC is not even willing to sell. So the marketers were saying one thing, IPMAN saying all sorts of people saying all sorts of things. But the story we are seeing in the Punch is a futuristic one that, look, if you take out subsidy, this is how much you are going to buy. There are Nigerians who say, look, we don't want to have this product and buy it, but the subsidy must go.
So, but the confusion is, with the subsidy still there or not? We still have, it seems next week we're going to see a new price. Well, as it is. So,
yes.
So the question is, do we keep dancing around this thing, or do we just let it all out and let's hit the 400 once and for all to know where we are?
A lot of people suggest that that's the best way to go. Yeah. Take out the subsidy, let us know what is all there, because right now who is benefiting? I think all the experts are in agreement that subsidy is wrong. This government actually had the will the other day to say that they are going to stop it, but then they backtracked on that. And then you need to hear the kind of amount only that's spent on subsidy. But then the promise is that from next year, this will go. And there are governments already in the campaigns. It's on the ballot too in the campaign. It's become a campaign issue with some of the contestants already saying that, look, the first thing they will do is take away subsidy. So that, like you say, we just face it and know that, look, the subsidy is not there. This is how much we're buying the product, and we're not at the mercy of every other person that just want to fix a price any other day that they wake up from their sleep.
Well, lots of experts, including you, Emmanuel, you said whichever government comes into power next year, they will have to face a tough decision. If those subsidies go, we might face protests, just like they're facing right now in China, Emmanuel. Unprecedented protests across cities in Wuhan, Shanghai, Shenzhen over COVID-19 lockdowns.
Exactly. I mean, it's funny that it's reminiscent of all the other kind of protests you've had in China. But these are Chinese coming out to say, look, we're tired of these COVID restrictions. Some people say it's because of the World Cup. They are looking at Qatar and they're saying people not using face masks and all of that, and not those COVID restrictions. Those very bitter ones are not there. People are very free. And Chinese are asking themselves, why are we doing this? Because China is so hard on its citizens, especially with the COVID protocols and all of that. So a lot of them, I mean, this is the birthplace of COVID-19. And they're saying, look, we're tired. Government is too hard. We want to go back to our normal lives. It's a very interesting kind of protest. And it's becoming political too, because they're asking, their leader there to resign. And that's something you don't see every day in China, apart from the protest of the 80s. This is coming at the time that the world is moving ahead with the COVID, living with it, and then you don't have those kind of serious restrictions. The Chinese are saying, look, we're done, we're tired, it's not happening around the world, why should it be happening here?
Well, let's take a look at iPaper. Sunak losing control as Tory rebellions grow. Is he really losing control? I mean, we have that threat of a pending strike or so coming from the health sector in the state. Do you think there's really a lot on his plate right now?
Yeah, I mean, but you probably can't blame him. He came into it with all this, he just took over. It's almost like an accidental prime minister, and then he's having to deal with all those crises, the cost of living crisis, the energy crisis, families, groaning under the weight of those, the choices that they have to make between just basic food and buying groceries, or buying more, stuff to heat up their homes and all of that. And as we head into the winter over there, Sunak, of course, is facing a lot of trouble. So many things on this table, and then the fact that it's not getting the kind of necessary support he's supposed to get from his base is also a problem. With a lot of people just saying, look, they will just wait the Sunak years and wait for the general elections to change a whole lot of things. But he's pushing forward with new regulations, actually even telling Britons what to do about energy, how to turn down their boiler, or how to reduce, just homemade, common sense methods to deal with some of those energy crises. But of course, everyone groaning that those policies are not working. Some people telling him that he has to actually think outside the box to come up with something really revolutionary to change the tide in the economy towards the inflation and the crisis that Britain is faced with right now.
Okay, should we go ahead? I mean,
you go ahead.
Okay, let me just bring it back to Nigeria here, and this is concerning INEC. And I find this headline, I wouldn't say funny, but ridiculous, sort of. It says 2023 polls concern, that's on Leadership newspaper, concerns as INEC tracks hundreds of PVCs to individuals. 2 persons found with about 468 voter cards in Sokoto and Kano. My question is, how did we allow things get to this point? It seems as if, we kind of get a reaction only when the public puts certain information out there. I mean, we did see alleged pictures of underage voting taking place in some parts of the north, and then INEC talking about trying to track hundreds of PVCs to individuals now. My point is, how did that even happen? This thing is supposed to be computerized, isn't it?
Yes, but that's the question, and it looks like some kind of collusion, between, INEC officials. And INEC itself will be the first to tell you, Professor Mahmoud will tell you that they are very worried about, rogue staff of INEC who are colluding with the public and trying to do things. In fact, they've done some sacking and all of that. But you're right, this can't just happen on its own like that. People can get access to these things unless they have someone working with them from the inside. But tie that also to the crisis of facilities of INEC that have been burnt in certain parts of the country already. INEC saying that over 50 of its facilities have been burnt, in offices across the country. They are even saying that that may jeopardize the election generally. So, and the IGP is weighing on that now, saying that look, we of course asking the commissioners of police in states to beef up security around the facility. But my question is that look, when you know very well we are faced with an election and these buildings are beginning to be targeted, why do you have to wait until we have these arsonists doing their thing, burning buildings, before you beef up securities around them? But it's better now than never, and so the police chief is saying, look, we're going to protect more of this. So alongside that is the crisis that we're reporting now, the fact that PVCs are in the homes of individuals, in the hands of individuals, and they're tracking them. These are the ones we do. The example in Sokoto, and I think one in what other state is it? Kano. We don't know where these things are hidden again. We don't know where some people are hiding this, and it's just few days to election. So these are worrisome, and that's why a lot of people seem to doubt the readiness of INEC. Of course, INEC continuously say we're ready for these elections. We'll do them. We're on top of the situation. But then you hear stories like this of PVC being in the hands of individuals. You hear about attacks on INEC offices, and you begin to wonder if INEC is really, really ready for the elections. I'm sure they will, of course, try to reassure us again that they're on top of this situation and that they can do something about it. But these are worrisome, developments, and we need to actually beam our searchlight on it to see how, individuals can be traced and this PVC collected, especially also as now that these elections are going to be technology-based, and it's very important that this is watched very well.
We're grateful for your insight this morning, Mayon. That's the press preview. You can air your views. Follow us on Twitter at Arise TV. You can join today's conversation using the hashtag AriseDaybreak.